What do you think about the sacrifices black women make to chase opportunities? Alice Johnson crossed an ocean for the honor of a lifetime, only to watch in stunned silence as her name was never called, her face erased from the spotlight, and her triumph quietly handed to her in the shadows after the crowd had vanished. If you love interesting stories like this that expose the truth, please give this video a thumbs up and tell us in the comments section where in the world you are watching this video, and also do well to smash that subscribe button. This story captures the emotional journey from excitement and hope through the gradual realization of discrimination to the final humiliation of being offered a fake participation trophy for being black. Alice Johnson believed hard work could break down any wall. At 42, she had turned her tiny Detroit salon into something magical. Women didn't just come for haircuts. They came for hope. Her hands told stories of transformation, one beautiful head at a time. The email came on a Tuesday morning like a gift from heaven. Congratulations, Weber International Beauty Awards nomination. Alice read those words until they burned into her memory. She, a black woman from Detroit's East Side, had been chosen for the Multi-Platform Influencer Award at the world's biggest beauty competition. "Deshaun!" she screamed to her husband getting ready for work. "Baby, look at this!" Deshaun came running, his work clothes half on. At 45, he was Alice's rock through 20 years of marriage. His eyes read the email, and his whole body lit up with joy. "Alice, this is your moment," he whispered, holding her tight. "All those sleepless nights, all those posts, this is why." Alice's fame had started by accident. A client wanted her hair transformation filmed, so Alice went live on Instagram. The video exploded. 2.3 million people watched Alice's magic hands turn damaged hair into a crown of curls while she preached self-love. Black women everywhere finally saw themselves represented in beauty. "You know what this means?" Alice said, her voice shaking with emotion. "All those times they said we weren't good enough. All those brand deals that went to white girls with half our followers. All those events where we were the only black faces. None of that matters now." Deshaun understood the weight of this moment. For 5 years, Alice had watched white influencers with smaller followings get book deals and major partnerships, while she got offered pocket change despite having 800,000 loyal fans. The Weber Awards were different. They celebrated real influence, not just celebrity. Alice's nomination felt like justice. For her work, for her community, for every black woman fighting to be seen. "The ceremony is in Paris," Alice read out loud. "June 15th. That's..." Her voice died. "Oh no! That's Jamal's graduation day." Their son was graduating from Wayne State University with an engineering degree. It was the crown jewel of years of sacrifice, late-night studying, and part-time jobs to cover what their working-class money couldn't reach. Deshaun saw the war in her eyes immediately. "Alice, you have to go," he said with power. "This chance won't come again. But it's our son's graduation. I've been dreaming of this day since he was born. And he'll understand. You think he doesn't see how hard you've worked? How many doors they've slammed in your face?" Deshaun held her face in his hands. "Baby, this is bigger than just you. This is about showing every little black girl who follows you that she can reach the top of any mountain." Alice thought about her grandmother, who cleaned white folks' houses for 40 years and never got even a thank you. She thought about her mother, passed over for promotions for 30 years at the insurance company. This nomination was for all of them. The decision ripped Alice's heart apart, but she knew Deshaun was right. She had built her platform on the message that black women deserve space in every room, even the ones they weren't invited to. She couldn't turn down the chance to actually claim that space. The next 3 months flew by like a hurricane. Alice bought a custom gown from a black designer in Chicago, stunning royal blue that made her dark skin glow like royalty. She practiced her acceptance speech in her salon mirror, imagining the moment she would stand on that stage representing her people. Her followers went crazy with excitement. The hashtag Alice in Paris exploded across social media, as Black women everywhere celebrated finally seeing one of their own recognized on the world stage. Alice felt their hopes and dreams settling on her shoulders like a beautiful, heavy crown. "We're so proud of you, Alice," her client Mrs. Davis said during her weekly appointment. "You're making all of us shine. Finally, somebody's gonna see what we've known all along. That Black women are the blueprint for everything beautiful in this world." The flight to Paris cost more than Alice had ever spent on anything except her house and car. She boarded that plane with her head high, carrying hair products in case other attendees needed touch-ups. Even at the Weber Awards, Alice Johnson would be ready to serve her community. Paris greeted her with gray skies and a language that made her grateful for her phone's translator. She checked into her budget hotel room. She had spent everything on the dress and flight. As she unpacked her single suitcase, Alice video called Jamal. "Mom, I'm so proud of you," her son said, his face beaming through the screen from thousands of miles away. "Take pictures of everything. I want to see you win that award. I love you, baby. I'm sorry I can't be there tomorrow. Don't apologize for chasing your dreams, Mom. You taught me to chase mine." The ceremony was at the Grand Palais, its glass dome sparkling under the evening lights. Alice arrived at exactly 7 p.m., as her invitation demanded. She had spent hours getting ready, her hair styled in elegant perfection that showed her skills while staying classy. At the entrance, security guards checked her invitation against their lists. Alice held her breath. Part of her still couldn't believe her name would really be there. But it was, and they waved her through with smiles and congratulations. A young blonde woman with a clipboard rushed over. "Ms. Johnson, I'm Claire, one of the event coordinators. We're so excited you're here. Can we get a quick interview for our social media?" Alice's heart soared. This was it. The recognition she had dreamed of. The interview lasted 5 minutes, with Claire asking about her journey and her platform's impact. Alice spoke with fire about representation and community building, her words flowing with the confidence of someone who knew her worth. "Wonderful," Claire said when they finished. "Enjoy the ceremony." Alice entered the main hall, and her breath stopped. The space was magnificent. Hundreds of elegantly dressed people mingled under chandeliers that painted warm light over tables draped in white silk. She had studied the guest list online and recognized faces from beauty magazines and social media. What she didn't see were many faces that looked like hers. Alice found her table and smiled at her name card written in elegant script. She sat with other influencers, though she noticed she was the only Black woman at the table. The conversation flowed easily at first. Everyone was excited, sharing stories about their journeys and praising each other's work. "I just love what you do with natural hair," said Madison, a lifestyle blogger from California with platinum blonde hair and 2 million followers. "It's so authentic." Alice smiled politely, though something in the way Madison said authentic made her skin crawl. She had learned to navigate these hidden insults with grace, even when they cut deep. As dinner was served, Alice tried to soak in the moment. The food was perfect, the wine was flowing, and the energy in the room was electric. Several people approached her table to introduce themselves, and Alice began to feel that familiar sensation of being the only Black person in a room full of white people trying too hard to be inclusive. "I follow your work," said a woman named Jessica, who ran a beauty blog about Scandinavian skincare. "You're so brave to talk about those issues." "What issues?" Alice asked, genuinely confused. "You know, the whole race thing. It must be hard to always have to make everything about that." Alice felt her smile crack. "I don't make everything about race. I make everything about serving my community and celebrating Black beauty. That's what my platform is built on." Jessica nodded enthusiastically. Right, exactly. The race thing. The conversation moved on, but Alice felt a familiar knot forming in her stomach. She had hoped that in Paris, at an international event celebrating digital innovation, she might escape the subtle dismissals she faced in American professional spaces. But here she was, being treated like a zoo animal rather than an equal. The ceremony began with great fanfare. The hosts, both white and perfectly dressed, welcomed everyone in English and French. They spoke about the power of digital influence and the importance of authentic voices in the beauty industry. Alice felt her excitement building again as they began announcing the categories. Our first award tonight is for Emerging Influencer of the Year, the female host announced. Alice watched as a young white woman with a small following was called to the stage. The winner looked genuinely shocked and emotional as she accepted her crystal trophy. Category after category was announced. Established Influencer of the Year went to a white man who reviewed luxury skincare products. Brand Partnership of the Year went to a collaboration between a major cosmetics company and a white woman who specialized in clean beauty tutorials. Alice watched each winner walk to the stage, accept their trophy, and pose for photos with the hosts. The knot in her stomach tightened with each passing award. She checked her phone. It was already 9:30 p.m., and they had been going for over an hour. Surely her category was coming up soon. Innovation in Beauty Content, the male host announced. Alice's heart jumped. This sounded like it could be her category. But no, it went to a white couple who had created an app for virtual makeup try-ons. Alice looked around the room. Many people were chatting quietly, some checking their phones. A few had even left for bathroom breaks or to network. But Alice remained focused on the stage, waiting for her moment. Before we continue, the female host said, let's take a moment to acknowledge all of our international nominees who have traveled so far to be with us tonight. A spotlight swept across the room, landing briefly on Alice's table. She smiled and waved, feeling a surge of pride. This was it, the recognition before her big moment. But the spotlight moved on, and the ceremony continued. More awards were announced, more white winners walked to the stage. Alice's table companions were called up twice. Madison won something called Lifestyle Integration Excellence, and Jessica received Cross-Platform Engagement Innovation. Alice clapped enthusiastically for each winner, but with every passing moment, her anxiety grew. She checked the program on her phone again. Multi-Platform Influencer Award, her category, wasn't listed, but it had to be there. She had been nominated. She had the email. By 10:45 p.m., Alice was fighting panic. The ceremony was clearly ending. The hosts were making jokes about the late hour and thanking sponsors. Winners were being called to the stage for group photos, their crystal trophies catching the light as they smiled for the cameras. Alice watched the group photos with growing horror. 23 winners, all white, all beaming with joy and validation. She felt invisible, like she was watching through a window at a party she wasn't actually invited to. And that concludes our ceremony, the male host announced. Thank you all for joining us at the Weber International Beauty Awards. Please join us in the lobby for our after-party celebration. Alice sat frozen in her chair as the room exploded in applause and people began to stand. Around her, attendees were gathering their things, hugging winners, and heading toward the exits. Her table companions were already gone, probably networking in the lobby. This couldn't be happening. Alice pulled out her phone and scrolled through her emails, finding the original nomination notification. She read it again carefully. Multi-Platform Influencer Award. Weber International Beauty Awards. June 15th, Paris. Everything matched. Excuse me, Alice said, approaching a woman with a staff badge who was collecting programs from tables. I think there might have been a mistake. I was nominated for an award, but my category wasn't announced. The woman, a thin blonde in her 30s, looked at Alice with barely hidden annoyance. "I'm sorry, but the ceremony is over. All the awards have been given out. But I'm Alice Johnson. I was nominated for the Multi-Platform Influencer Award. I flew here from Detroit. I have the email invitation." The woman's expression shifted from annoyance to something that looked almost like pity. "I think you might have gotten a spam email. We get a lot of people who think they've been nominated when they haven't. You should check your email more carefully next time." Alice felt heat rising in her cheeks. This wasn't spam. I was interviewed when I arrived. Claire from your team interviewed me for social media. "I don't know who Claire is," the woman said, already walking away. "But I can assure you that if you were actually nominated, you would have received your award." Alice stood alone in the emptying auditorium, her royal blue gown suddenly feeling like a costume. She pulled out her phone and called Deshawn, but it went to voicemail. He was probably at Jamal's graduation dinner. The ceremony she had abandoned to be here. Fighting back tears, Alice made her way to the lobby, where the after-party was in full swing. Winners were posing for photos with their trophies, industry executives were shaking hands and exchanging business cards, and everyone seemed to be having the time of their lives. Alice spotted Claire, the coordinator who had interviewed her earlier. She was laughing with a group of other staff members, a glass of champagne in her hand. "Excuse me, Claire?" Alice approached the group. "I'm Alice Johnson. You interviewed me earlier. I think there's been some confusion about my award." Claire looked at Alice blankly for a moment before recognition dawned. "Oh, right. The hair lady from America. How did you enjoy the ceremony?" "I didn't receive my award," Alice said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was nominated for the Multi-Platform Influencer Award, but it was never announced." Claire exchanged glances with her colleagues. "Are you sure you were nominated? Because that's not really a category we have. I think maybe you got confused about something." Alice felt the room spinning. "I was definitely nominated. I have the email. You interviewed me about it 3 hours ago." "Oh, that," Claire said dismissively. "We interview lots of people. It's just for content. Not everyone who gets interviewed is actually nominated. But you specifically asked me about being nominated, about my journey to this moment." One of Claire's colleagues, a man in his 40s with perfectly styled hair, leaned in. "Look, I don't know what kind of scam you're running, but this isn't appropriate. This is a private event for actual nominees and winners." "I am an actual nominee," Alice said, her voice rising despite her efforts to stay calm. "I have 800,000 followers. I've been building my platform for 5 years. I've influenced millions of women to embrace their natural beauty." "That's nice," the man said condescendingly. "But influencing a certain demographic doesn't really qualify you for international recognition. These awards are for people who have broad appeal." The words hit Alice like a punch to the gut. She looked around the group, searching for support, for someone to acknowledge the obvious discrimination happening. But the other staff members were looking away, suddenly fascinated by their phones or the decorations on the walls. "The ceremony isn't quite over," Claire said suddenly, her voice artificially bright. "We're doing some final presentations at midnight. Why don't you wait around? Maybe there's still something for you." Alice wanted to leave. Every instinct screamed at her to walk out with whatever dignity she had left. But she thought about her followers, about the little black girls who looked up to her, about her grandmother who had never gotten a chance like this. She had come too far to give up now. "I'll wait," Alice said quietly. The next hour and a half were pure torture. Alice sat alone in the lobby, watching the after-party swirl around her. Occasionally someone would approach her, usually to ask if she was lost or if she needed help finding the exit. When she explained that she was waiting for her award, the responses ranged from confused to openly skeptical. "Honey," said an older woman with a thick southern accent, "are you sure you're supposed to be here? This is a pretty exclusive event. Alice began to understand that her presence was being tolerated, not welcomed. She was the only black woman in the entire venue. A fact that had felt empowering when she first arrived, but now felt isolating and dangerous. At 11:45 p.m., Claire reappeared, looking frazzled and slightly drunk. Alice, you're still here? Great. So, we have a little presentation for you. Alice's heart leaped. Maybe this had all been a misunderstanding. Maybe her award was coming after all. Claire led her back into the main auditorium, which was now mostly empty except for a few staff members cleaning up. The grand stage looked smaller without the crowd. The lights dimmed to working level rather than the dramatic spotlights of the ceremony. So, Claire said, we don't actually have the multi-platform influencer award. That's not a real category. But we thought, since you came all this way, we could create something special for you. Alice felt her stomach drop. What do you mean? We have this, Claire said, producing a small crystal trophy that looked nothing like the ones the real winners had received. It was clearly a generic award, the kind you could buy at any trophy shop. We can call it the, Community Impact Award. Community Impact Award, Alice repeated slowly. Yes, for your work in the, urban community. Alice stared at the cheap trophy in Claire's hands. After everything, the flight, the dress, missing her son's graduation, the humiliation of being treated like a gatecrasher at her own nomination ceremony, they were offering her a participation trophy for being black. This is what you want to give me? Alice asked. Well, you can't leave empty-handed, right? And we can take some photos. It'll be great for your social media. Your followers will love it. Alice looked around the empty auditorium. No photographer, no crowd, no other winners to celebrate with. Just her, alone on a stage, accepting a fake award for a fake category while the real winners were probably already back at their hotels, planning their victory posts for Instagram. But Alice thought about her followers again, about the hundreds of thousands of black women who had been following her journey, who had believed in this moment as much as she had. She thought about little Keisha from her neighborhood, who had written her a letter saying she wanted to be a beauty influencer, just like Alice when she grew up. Alice took the trophy. Thank you, she said, her voice hollow but polite. She had learned long ago that showing anger in these situations only made things worse. Better to smile, to be gracious, to be the good one who didn't cause trouble. Claire snapped a few photos with her phone, promising to send them to Alice later. The photos never came. As Alice walked out of the Grand Palais alone, carrying her fake trophy and wearing her expensive dress, she felt something break inside her. The little girl who had believed that excellence would be enough was finally completely dead. In her place was a woman who understood that sometimes the rooms you thought you were invited into were just elaborate ways of keeping you outside. The flight home was long and bumpy. Alice spent most of it staring out the window, composing the post she would write to her followers. How do you tell 800,000 people who believed in your dream that the dream was a lie? How do you explain that you were invited to a party just so they could remind you that you don't belong? When Alice finally arrived home, Deshaun was waiting for her at the airport. He took one look at her face and knew everything. How was Jamal's graduation? Alice asked as they walked to the car. Beautiful, Deshaun said softly. He asked about you in his speech. Said his mom was in Paris showing the world what Detroit excellence looks like. Alice started crying then, right there in the airport parking lot. Deshaun held her while she sobbed, letting out all the frustration and humiliation and heartbreak of the past 24 hours. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry I missed it. I'm so sorry I believed them. I'm so sorry I thought I could be more than what they'll let me be. Don't you apologize for dreaming big, Deshaun said fiercely. Don't you dare apologize for believing you deserve the same recognition as anyone else. You do deserve it. The fact that they can't see it doesn't change that. When Alice finally posted about her experience, the response was immediate and overwhelming. The hashtag Alice Deserved Better trended worldwide. Black women across social media shared their own stories of being tokenized, dismissed, and discriminated against in professional settings. Major beauty brands that had previously ignored Alice suddenly wanted to partner with her. The Weber Awards organization issued a statement claiming there had been administrative errors and promising to do better in the future. But Alice was done waiting for white institutions to validate her worth. She used the attention from her experience to launch her own awards ceremony, the Crown Awards, specifically designed to celebrate Black excellence in beauty and digital innovation. The first ceremony was held in Detroit, at the same community center where Alice had gotten her start doing hair for church events. "They tried to make me small," Alice said in her opening speech, her voice strong and clear. "They tried to make me grateful for scraps and happy to be the only one in the room. But I'm not the only one anymore. Look around. This room is full of queens who deserve crowns, not crumbs." The community impact of Alice's story reached far beyond beauty and social media. Her experience became a case study in academic circles about modern discrimination and the ways that institutions use tokenism to maintain exclusivity while appearing inclusive. Young Black women in business schools studied her response, learning how to turn rejection into revolution. Alice still does hair, still posts tutorials, still celebrates Black beauty in all its forms. But now she does it with the full knowledge that her worth was never determined by their recognition. She had always been excellent. She had always been deserving. She had always been enough. The cheap trophy from Paris sits on a shelf in her salon, not as a symbol of achievement, but as a reminder of the moment she stopped waiting for permission to be great. Next to it sits the first Crown Award she received from her own ceremony. Not because she won a category, but because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is crown yourself. "Every time I look at that fake trophy," Alice tells her clients, "I remember that their inability to see my worth doesn't diminish it. It just means they don't deserve to be in my presence. And baby, that's their loss, not mine."